He knocked gently on the worn wooden door of the small townhome one late afternoon. The sky streaked in amber and rose as day yielded to evening. In his hand, he clutched a simple bouquet of wildflowers, daisies, Queen Anne's lace, and a single, red poppy, picked from the roadside meadow they passed each day on their way home from school. Beside him stood 8-year-old Lucas, chestnut hair tousled by a breeze heavy with the scent of summer grass. Lucas's small hand gripped tight around his mother's, his dark eyes bright with equal parts excitement and trepidation. He could feel his heart hammering inside his chest. He'd practiced this moment in the mirror more times than he cared to count. He'd stood on tiptoes, rehearsing the words under his breath so they wouldn't tangle on his tongue when the time came. And now that he was here, just steps away, from the threshold that separated his ordinary life from whatever lay ahead, he felt his resolve harden like setting concrete. He closed his eyes, inhaled, and spoke. "Please, will you marry my mom? She's all I have left." The silence that followed was so profound it ate the last light from their faces. A single cricket chirped on the porch rail, its song a reminder of the summer world beyond this tiny moment of destiny. He heard his own breathing, steady, deliberate, and he dared to open one eye. The man named Carter met his gaze, one eyebrow quirked in astonishment. Carter had shown up in their lives half a year ago. He was tall and lean, with dusted freckles across his nose and an evident kindness in his smile. He volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club where Lucas reluctantly attended. Dragging his feet after a morning of missing his father fell away like a dying echo. Lucas's mother, Elena, always said it suited Carter's gentle nature that he gravitated toward those who'd lost something precious. He volunteered to tutor Lucas in math, to coach the Little League team, and to help around the house whenever a leak sprang or paint chipped. Slowly, carefully, he'd woven himself into the patchwork of their broken home. And now here he stood, on their battered front porch, with a child's faith pressing him toward a choice. "Lucas." Elena's voice trembled as she stepped through the door, shawl wrapped around her shoulders. "What is this?" Lucas stepped forward, gripping the wildflowers so tightly his knuckles whitened. "He stays with us. Forever. Will you marry her? Will you marry my mom?" He gestured toward Carter, then looked up at him, eyes hopeful. Carter's chest tightened. He remembered the first afternoon he'd visited, how Elena had welcomed him with bittersweet warmth, how Lucas had clung to her side like a shadow. He thought of the nights he'd sat on their living room floor, playing checkers and reading stories until Lucas's eyelids drooped. He thought of Elena's laughter, fragile at first, then growing stronger like a sapling reaching for sunlight. He thought of the dinner table where he'd watched them share pasta and marinara, trading stories and smiles, forging a new rhythm he'd once believed lost to him forever. He knelt before Lucas, coming face to face with the earnest hope in his bright eyes. "Are you sure this is what you want, buddy?" Lucas nodded without hesitation. "I want a dad, and I want us to be a family." Carter swallowed the lump in his throat and ruffled Lucas's hair, the simple gesture an unspoken promise. "You have me," he said softly. "All of me." Elena held her breath, tears glinting at the corners of her eyes. She stepped forward, placing a hand on Carter's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. In the days that followed, the small apartment on Cedar Street transformed. Carter moved in with nothing more than a suitcase and a stubborn optimism that spilled over into every corner of their lives. He painted Lucas's bedroom bright yellow, the color of sunshine and laughter. He helped Elena hang curtains in the living room, fabric patterned with sunflowers that reminded them both of better days. They spent Saturday mornings at the library, Lucas curled up between them with a stack of graphic novels, and Sunday afternoons playing miniature golf at the park. Lucas showed Carter how to master the perfect swing, cheering when he finally sank, a hole-in-one. Elena taught Carter her grandmother's lasagna recipe, and they lingered in the warmth of the kitchen as steam curled around them. Over plates of pasta they laughed until their sides ached, and for a moment, pain seemed like a distant memory. But life's trials are persistent things, and even love needs tending. One crisp morning, Elena received a letter notifying her that her job at the bakery was in jeopardy due to cutbacks. Her hand shook as she read it, remembering the nights she'd stayed late, frosting cakes and kneading dough until her back ached. She looked at Carter, backlit by the kitchen window as he poured 2 cups of coffee, and her throat tightened. "We'll manage," he said when he saw the letter. He reached across the table, sliding the envelope toward him. "We're a team now. We'll figure this out together." She nodded, blinking back tears. And they did. Carter picked up overtime hours at the hardware store. Elena took on extra shifts at the diner. Lucas took to waking early to pack lunches and pour cereal, eager to help in any way he could. In that struggle, they found new strengths and discovered that love is more than laughter. It's the hand that steadies you when you falter. As weeks turned to months, summer surrendered to the crisp edges of autumn. They celebrated Lucas's 9th birthday with a backyard barbecue. They invited neighbors and friends from school. Carter strung twinkling lights around the fence, and Lucas's classmates brought handmade cards bursting with crayons and glitter. Elena grilled hot dogs while Carter flipped burgers, and Lucas giggled as he chased fireflies at dusk. They'd become a family not by blood, but by choice, each day a new stitch in the tapestry of their shared lives. One afternoon, in late autumn, Carter surprised them both. He called Elena into the living room where he'd set up a small table covered in velvet blue fabric. On it lay 3 objects: an old photograph of Elena's late husband in uniform, a broken pocket watch Lucas used for show and tell and cherished despite its stopped hands, and a simple silver ring. Elena's breath caught when she recognized the uniform in the photograph. "How did you—" Carter's eyes were warm with intent. "I found it at the flea market last week," he said, voice steady. "Your husband's things deserve a proper place." He picked up the photograph and placed it in a handcrafted wooden frame. Then he lifted the pocket watch, its cracked crystal catching the light. "And this," he continued, "reminds us that time moves forward, but love keeps perfect moments alive." He set the watch next to the framed photo, and then he turned to Elena, kneeling on one knee. Lucas's head popped around the corner, eyes wide as Carter spoke. "Elena Garcia, will you marry me? Will you let me choose you every day just like Lucas asked me to?" Tears welled in her eyes as she gazed from Carter to Lucas, who bounced excitedly on his toes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, of course." He slipped the ring onto her finger, its simple band catching the room's golden light. Lucas threw his arms around both of them, a triumphant grin splitting his face. "I knew it!" he cheered. They held each other tightly, the broken watch and old photograph bearing witness to the promise they'd just made. Winter melted into spring, and the sapling they planted together in the backyard grew taller and stronger, just like their family. They took turns watering it on rainy days and trimming dead leaves in the sun. On warm Saturday afternoons, they picnicked beneath its budding branches, telling stories of dreams and futures. Lucas learned how to ride a bike without training wheels, Carter running alongside him until balance took over, then letting go with a proud cry. Elena watched from the porch, knitting a scarf for each of them, blue for her husband-to-be, red for her son. They practiced riding together, laughing when they wobbled, cheering when they zoomed down the sidewalk. They fell into a comfortable routine: strawberry pancakes on Sunday mornings, homework sessions in the library corner, movie nights with popcorn that smelled of butter and nostalgia. Carter taught Lucas how to swear in Spanish when his mother wasn't listening. She taught Carter how to braid her hair in tight, perfect plaits. Lucas taught both of them how to find hidden messages in comic books. Sundays at the ice cream parlor became a weekly ritual. Together, they navigated life's ups and downs. When Elena's father fell ill, Carter booked time off work and drove them to the hospital, offering quiet support and a steady shoulder in the waiting room. When Lucas felt left out at school because of his unusual family, Carter walked the halls by his side, reminding teachers and classmates that families come in many forms. When Carter faced doubts of being enough, of deserving their love, Elena and Lucas reassured him with homemade cards, hugs, and the simple truth: family is chosen. On a bright June morning, Exactly 1 year after that fateful knock on their door, they held a small ceremony in their backyard beneath the now mighty tree. Neighbors gathered, offering potluck dishes and handwritten well wishes. Lucas led Elena down a makeshift aisle of rose petals. Carter waited beneath an arch of painted driftwood, hands trembling with anticipation. They exchanged vows written in Lucas's best handwriting, a mixture of shaky letters and heart-shaped doodles. Elena's promise to laugh with him in joy and comfort him in sorrow. Carter's vow to be a steadfast partner and loving father. Lucas's declaration that he'd always eat breakfast, even when he didn't feel like it, to make sure his new family started the day together. When they kissed under the dappled sunlight, cheers rose around them like birdsong. They danced to a playlist Carter made, soft rock anthems, classic love songs, and Lucas's favorite upbeat tracks to which they all clapped in time. That night, they sat around a fire pit, roasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories. Lucas fell asleep against Carter's side, sticky with melted chocolate. Elena rested her head on his shoulder, tracing circles on his arm. "This is everything I ever dreamed of," she murmured. He kissed her forehead. "And so much more." Lucas stirred in his sleep, murmuring, "I love you, Dad. I love you, Mom." A breeze rustled the leaves of the tree they'd planted together, carrying their laughter into the starlit sky. In that moment, they knew their love had grown roots deep enough to weather any storm. And every day they chose each other, building a family from hope, trust, and the courage to say, "I choose you," again and again. They lived their story one day at a time, a testament to the extraordinary power of an ordinary family. A story that melted hearts, kindled hope, and whispered the truth that love, when chosen freely and tended with care, can transform lives forever.